A scream caught in her throat as the stranger's eyes snapped open, dark, focused, and painfully human. In the orange dust storm light, he looked like a ghost made of flesh, broader shoulders, rough hair on his jaw, and a voice that didn't belong on this world. The alien girl had been told men were a myth, a dangerous lie from the surface. But the myth grabbed her wrist with surprising strength and whispered one cracked word that made her blood turn cold. Hide. She froze. Because the bunker alarms, deep under the sand, had just started to wail. Flyer Nesh didn't mean to go outside. Nobody did. The surface was a forbidden place in the city of Vale, where 1,000 women lived under rock and steel, sealed away for generations. The elders taught it like religion. The air kills, the sun poisons, and anything that falls from the sky brings death. But Flyer was not like the others. She was a scavenger, a fixer, the one they sent into tight maintenance tunnels when the water pumps coughed or the air filters shuddered. That morning, the ground had trembled. A thunderous boom rolled through the bunker like a giant fist striking the ceiling. Dust rained from vents. Lights flickered. Women screamed and clutched their children. Then the elders spoke over the city broadcast, calm and sharp. Impact detected. Unknown object. No surface teams authorized. That was enough to make Flyer do something stupid. She waited until shift change, took a breathing mask and a heat cloak, and slipped into the oldest access shaft, the one the maps called collapsed. Collapsed meant forgotten. Forgotten meant unguarded. The climb up was long and silent. Metal rungs cold under her gloves. Her own breath loud in her ears. As she rose, she felt something she hadn't felt in years, excitement mixed with fear, twisting together like wire. At the final hatch, her hands shook. She pressed her ear to the seal. Nothing. No screaming wind. No deadly hiss of poison gas. Just quiet. Flyer turned the wheel and pushed. Light spilled in, harsh and orange, like the sky itself was on fire. She stumbled out into sand, rock, and a wide, empty horizon. No monsters. No immediate death. The air tasted dry and sharp, but it didn't burn. She took one careful breath, then another, waiting for pain. Nothing. Her knees almost gave out, not from poison, but from the weight of a lie. A crater smoked a short distance away. Twisted metal. Blackened fragments. Something had fallen from the sky, just like the elders feared. Flyer pulled her hood tighter and jogged toward it, staying low. Heat shimmered off the wreckage. Then she saw the body. It was partly buried in sand, lying at an angle like it had been thrown. For a moment she thought it was one of her people, until she got close and saw the skin. Not green. Not the shades of jade and teal she'd known her whole life. Pink. And the shape. Different. Larger frame. Wider chest. Strange rough hair along the jaw and upper lip. The face looked older than most young women in the bunker, but not elder-old. Maybe late 20s. His lips were cracked. His brow swollen. Flyer's throat went tight. A man. The word should have been silly. A story word. A warning used to scare girls into obedience. Men were the reason the old world ended, the elders said. Men brought sickness and violence. Men were extinct. The last male died centuries ago. That was the law of the bunker. But this was breathing. Flyer's hands hovered over him, unsure if touching him was forbidden in some way she didn't understand. He groaned softly, and the sound cut through her like a knife. Real. Alive. She touched his neck the way healers taught, searching for pulse. Strong. Her mind raced. If the elders find out, they would panic. They would lock the city down. They might kill him. Or worse, use him like a symbol, a miracle, a weapon. He coughed and tried to sit up. Pain flashed across his face, and he collapsed back into the sand with a sharp inhale. Flyer stepped back instinctively, hand going to the small cutter on her belt. Not because she wanted to hurt him. Because she was suddenly aware she was alone on the surface with something unknown. His eyes opened. Dark brown, almost black, focused on her as if searching for meaning in her face. He blinked once. Twice. Then his eyes widened. "You're green," he rasped. Flyra's mouth went dry. You're a man. His brow creased like he didn't understand the word. A what? A male, she said quickly, as if saying it faster would make it safer. From the old stories. He tried to breathe, winced, pressed a hand to his ribs. Okay, either I'm dead, or I hit my head harder than I thought. Flyra crouched, careful, not too close. Who are you? The man's gaze flicked to the smoking crater behind her, then back to the endless orange sky. He swallowed. My name is Kellen Rook. The name sounded harsh in her language, full of edges. I was on a ship, he continued slowly, like he was building the truth piece by piece. It got taken. Someone redirected it. I woke up in fire. Flyra stared at the wreckage. You fell from the sky. That's one way to say it. His voice cracked. Where am I? Flyra hesitated. The truth tasted dangerous. This world is called Vaisha. There is a bunker under the sand. A city. 1,000 women. Kellen's eyes locked onto hers. Confusion sharpened into something else. Alertness. 1,000 women. Flyra nodded. No men. Not for generations. Kellen went still, and in that stillness Flyra felt a strange shift, like the air itself had changed. That's not possible, he whispered. Not unless. A distant siren rose from under the ground. Low, pulsing, angry. The sound traveled up through the sand like a heartbeat. Flyra's stomach dropped. That's a lockdown alarm, she said. They detected movement in the access shafts. Kellen's head snapped toward the hatch behind her. They are coming. Yes. Flyra's mind raced. If she went back empty-handed, the elders would question her, maybe imprison her. If she went back with a man, the city might explode into chaos. But leaving him here meant death. His injuries were obvious, and the surface was unforgiving. Kellen's eyes narrowed. He didn't look like a helpless myth now. He looked like someone who had survived things. Someone trained by hard worlds. He grabbed her wrist suddenly, fast, strong, urgent. Flyra jerked, startled, but he didn't pull her closer. He held her like a warning. Hide, he whispered. Flyra stared at him. Hide you. He shook his head slightly, eyes scanning the horizon beyond the crater. No. Hide from them. Flyra swallowed. From who? Kellen's face tightened. The ones who brought me down. If they can track the crash, they'll send a retrieval team. And if they find your bunker. A sharp, distant whine cut through the wind. Not the siren. Something above. Flyra tilted her head, listening. The sound grew louder, slicing the sky like metal. Kellen's grip tightened. Drones, he breathed. Flyra's blood went cold. She had never seen a drone. She had only heard stories of sky eyes that watched and punished. She'd always assumed those were lies too. But the sound was real. She looked toward the horizon, and there, small against the orange sky, tiny black specks moved in a perfect line, converging toward the smoke. Her chest tightened. They're coming here. Kellen's eyes met hers, intense and steady despite the pain. Listen to me. I can help you. I can protect your people. But you have to get me inside. Flyra's thoughts crashed into each other. A man. A myth. A threat. A chance. The siren below pulsed faster. The bunker was waking up. Guards would reach the hatch soon. Flyra made a decision that would change her world forever. Can you stand? She asked. Kellen grimaced, braced his hands in the sand, and pushed himself up. He swayed, but stayed on his feet. Barely. Flyra grabbed his arm and pulled it over her shoulder. He was heavy, far heavier than any woman she'd carried. Then move, she hissed. If they see you, they'll panic. Kellen staggered with her toward the hatch. Above them, the drone whine grew louder. Below them, 1,000 lives waited in darkness, unaware that the impossible was about to walk into their city. And Flyra suddenly understood the terrifying truth. The surface wasn't deadly because it was poisoned. It was deadly because someone wanted them hidden. The hatch sealed shut behind them with a heavy clang that echoed through the shaft. Flyra leaned her weight into it, spinning the locking wheel with shaking hands until the pressure warning light turned green. Only then did she let herself breathe. Kellen sagged against the wall, sweat beading on his forehead. His breaths came shallow, sharp with pain. The narrow tunnel smelled of metal, dust, and old air, filtered, recycled, alive. "You okay?" Flyra asked, though she already knew the answer was no. "I've been better," Kellen said, managing a weak smile. "But I've also been worse. So, call it even." She stared at him, still half expecting him to fade away like a dream. "You shouldn't joke. You're hurt." "I joke when I'm hurt," he replied. "Keeps me awake." The sirens outside the shaft continued to pulse, muffled now but urgent. Voices echoed from below, guards shouting, boots pounding metal stairs. Flyra's heart raced. "They are coming. If they see you like this, they'll freak out," Kellen finished. "Yeah. I got that impression already." She grabbed his arm again. "You need to keep your head down. Say nothing unless I tell you." "Hard to blend in, being the only man in a city of women," he muttered. "This city believes men caused the end of the world," Flyra snapped. "So yes. Hard." They started down the shaft. Each step made Kellen hiss under his breath, but he didn't complain. That, Flyra noticed, was strange. Most people she knew complained loudly over far less pain. The tunnel opened into a maintenance corridor lit by soft green strips. 3 guards stood waiting, shock batons raised. They froze when they saw Flyra emerge, then stared at the figure leaning on her shoulder. "What is that?" one guard whispered. Flyra straightened, forcing authority into her voice. "Surface debris survivor. Injured. Needs medical." The guard's eyes flicked over Kellen's pink skin, the dark hair on his face, his height. Fear crept into her expression like a shadow. "That's not." "I know exactly what it is," Flyra said sharply. "And if you want the elders to hear this from someone else, keep staring." Silence. The guards lowered their weapons slowly. "Escort us," Flyra ordered. "Quietly." They moved fast through back corridors, avoiding public paths. Still, eyes followed them. Whispers bloomed like sparks. "Who is he? Why is he different? Is that hair?" Kellen kept his head down, jaw tight. His senses screamed. The air here was cleaner than outside, richer. The architecture was alien but logical. And the people, every instinct told him this was a powder keg. They reached the infirmary, white stone, humming machines, the smell of antiseptic. A healer rushed forward, then stopped short when she saw him. "Flyra, what did you bring me?" "Someone alive," Flyra said. "Do your job." The healer hesitated only a moment before guiding Kellen onto a table. As scanners passed over him, her eyes widened. "He's compatible with our atmosphere," she murmured. "No toxins. No radiation sickness." Flyra felt something inside her twist. Proof. Living, breathing proof that the elders had been wrong. Kellen exhaled as a stabilizer wrapped around his ribs. "Told you I wasn't a ghost." The healer jumped at his voice. "It speaks." "I speak," Kellen corrected gently. "Talking's kind of our thing." She stared at him like he'd just rewritten history. Outside the infirmary, the city stirred. News traveled faster than alarms. By the time Flyra stepped into the council chamber an hour later, the place was packed. 1,000 women. Elders at the center. Fear, awe, anger, thick as smoke. Magistra Sorrel, oldest among them, leaned forward. Her skin was pale jade, her eyes sharp. "You violated surface law." "I followed truth," Flyra replied. Sorrel's gaze cut to Kellen as guards escorted him in. A ripple of shock rolled through the chamber. "A man," someone breathed. "No," another said. "Impossible." Kellen stood as straight as his injuries allowed. He met their stares head-on. I'm human, he said clearly. Male. And very real. Gasps. Cries. A child laughed nervously. You should not exist, Sorrel said coldly. Kellen shrugged. I've been told that before. Flyra stepped forward. He fell from the sky. The surface didn't kill him. The air didn't poison us. Everything we were taught was to protect us, Sorrel snapped. Men brought war, sickness, collapse. Kellen's eyes darkened. No, he said quietly. Fear did. Lies did. People hiding instead of fixing what broke. The chamber erupted in shouting. Silence. Sorrel roared. The room fell quiet. She studied Kellen like a dangerous artifact. Why are you here, man? Kellen didn't answer immediately. He thought of betrayal. Of fire. Of drones in the sky. Because someone wanted me gone, he said finally. And because your world was convenient to hide the truth. Flyra stiffened. Hide what truth? That humanity didn't disappear, Kellen said. And that you weren't supposed to stay buried. Murmurs rippled again, sharper this time. There are forces out there, he continued, that benefit when populations stay isolated. Weak. Afraid. You were sealed away not to save you, but to remove you from the board. Sorrel's lips thinned. Lies. Test the surface, Flyra challenged. Send scanners. Walk outside yourselves. We will not risk. Risk what? Flyra shouted. The truth. Silence fell heavy. Then a low hum shook the chamber. Alarms blared again, different this time. Higher pitched. Urgent. A voice rang through the city broadcast. Unidentified aerial units detected. Approaching fast. Kellen's blood ran cold. He looked up. They found me, he said. Fear rippled through the crowd. What do we do? Someone cried. Kellen clenched his fists. Pain forgotten. You let me do what humans do best. And that is? Sorrel demanded. He looked around the chamber, at fear-stricken faces, at a civilization that had survived by hiding. We adapt, he said. We outthink. And we fight smarter than anyone expects. Flyra met his eyes. In that moment, she believed him completely. Because humanity hadn't survived the galaxy by being the strongest. They survived by refusing to stay buried. The bunker shook as the first distant impact rolled through the stone like thunder trapped underground. Dust drifted from the ceiling of the council chamber. Somewhere far above, metal screamed. Panic spread fast. Women shouted. Children cried. Guards tightened their grips on weapons they had never fired in real combat. Magistra Sorrel rose slowly, leaning on her staff. Her voice cut through the chaos. Defensive protocol. Seal all outer tunnels. Too late, Kellen thought. He stepped forward despite the pain in his ribs. Sealing yourselves in is exactly what they expect. Sorrel's eyes burned into him. You dare give orders here? I dare tell you the truth, Kellen replied. Those drones aren't here to study you. They're here to erase evidence. Me. And anyone who's seen me. Flyra turned toward him sharply. Erase. They don't leave witnesses, Kellen said. Not after containment fails. Another tremor. Louder this time. The lights flickered, then steadied. A technician burst into the chamber. Magistra. Surface scanners confirm hostile machines. 3 units drilling toward access shafts. They're not attacking randomly, they're targeting infrastructure. A chill ran through the room. They know our layout, Flyra whispered. Kellen nodded grimly. Which means your ancestors didn't just hide. They made a deal. Anger exploded across Sorrel's face. Enough. But doubt had already taken root. Too many things lined up. Too many lies were cracking at once. A younger councilwoman spoke, her voice shaking. If what he says is true, hiding will only trap us. Sorrel hesitated. That moment, small, fragile, was all Kellen needed. "Give me access," he said. "Your machines. Your power systems. Your surface controls. I don't need weapons. I need tools." Sorrel studied him, searching for weakness, for manipulation. "And why should we trust you?" Kellen met her gaze without flinching. "Because if I wanted you dead, I'd stay silent and let them finish the job." Silence pressed down. Then Flyra stepped forward. "I'll take responsibility," she said. "If is wrong, punish me. But if is right, and we do nothing, we all die underground." Sorrel closed her eyes. When she opened them, something old and tired looked out. "Grant him access," she said. "All of it." The city moved. Kellen was rushed through corridors filled with cables, humming generators, and systems built to survive centuries of isolation. He ignored the stares, the whispers, the fear. His mind was already tearing the bunker apart and rebuilding it in his head. "Your power grid is layered," he muttered, scanning displays. "Redundant. Good. But you're wasting output on life support oversaturation." A technician blinked. "We've always done it that way." "Because you were afraid to turn the dial," Kellen said. "Fear makes systems inefficient." He rerouted energy flows, hands flying across alien interfaces with instinct born of experience. Human design principles were universal. Balance, pressure, feedback. Flyra watched in or as lights brightened, then stabilized. Systems hummed smoother. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Making your bunker something they don't expect," Kellen replied. "A weapon." Another impact. Closer. "Surface breach in 5 minutes," a voice shouted over comms. Kellen pulled up surface schematics. "You have old terraforming emitters buried under the sand. Decommissioned." "They failed centuries ago," Flyra said. "They were abandoned," Kellen corrected. "There's a difference." He slammed a command through the system. Above them, the sand shifted. The drones drilled downward with surgical precision, sleek black machines with glowing cores. They pierced rock and steel, sensors sweeping, weapons charging. Then the ground pulsed. Energy surged upward in a controlled wave, invisible but powerful. The air ionized. The sky above the bunker shimmered. One drone jerked mid-air. Its system screamed as ancient human math, updated, refined, ripped through its shielding. It exploded. The second tried to adapt. Kellen smiled thinly. Too slow. Another pulse. Another kill. The third drone pulled back, retreating skyward. Cheers erupted in the bunker. But Kellen's smile faded. "That was a probe," he said. "Now they know you're awake." Sorrel approached him, her expression unreadable. "You just painted a target on us." "No," Kellen said. "You've always been a target. You just stopped pretending otherwise." Flyra felt something ignite in her chest, not fear, but excitement. Purpose. "What happens now?" she asked. Kellen looked around at the women of the bunker, engineers, guards, healers, mothers, people who had survived by enduring. "Now," he said, "you stop hiding." He pulled up star maps, long-range signals, and dormant arrays buried deep in the planet. "There's a wider galaxy out there," he continued. "And not all of it agrees with the people who tried to kill me. Humanity doesn't stand alone anymore." Sorrel stared at the displays, at the proof of a universe she had denied. "You would bring war to our door." "I would bring choice," Kellen replied. "And knowledge. And allies." Another silence. Different this time. Not fear-filled. Curious. Hopeful. Flyra saw it in the faces around her, the same realization she'd felt on the surface. The world was bigger than the bunker, and they were strong enough to face it. High above, signals raced across space, messages of defiance, awakening, and first contact. And somewhere far away, those who believed humanity could be erased began to realize a terrible truth. Humans didn't just survive. They taught others how to rise. The city of Vale had never been so loud. Not with alarms, not with fear, but with movement. Corridors once walked in silence now buzzed with voices. Engineers argued and laughed at the same time. Guards trained with new urgency. Children pressed their faces to viewports as surface feeds, real, living images, flickered to life across public screens. The sky was no longer a myth. Kellen stood at the center of the command nexus, one hand braced on a console, the other tapping commands into systems that had not been fully awake in 200 years. His ribs still hurt. His head still rang. But pain had become background noise. This was focus. "They're pulling back," said a sensor officer. "No new drones in the last 12 minutes." "They're regrouping," Kellen replied without looking up. "They don't abandon assets unless the cost changes." Flyra stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the tactical display. "You make it sound like a game." "It is," Kellen said. "Just not a fair one. Yet." Magistra Sorrel entered the Nexus slowly. She looked older than she had hours before, but also lighter, as if centuries of weight had shifted off her shoulders. "Our people are restless," she said. "They want to know what comes next." Kellen finally turned to face her. "Then tell them the truth." Sorrel held his gaze. "You understand what you're asking? The end of everything we taught them." "I understand exactly," he said quietly. "I lost my world once because people believed lies were safer than truth." That landed harder than any argument. Sorrel nodded once. "Then speak. Not as a ruler. As a witness." They gathered in the central plaza, the same place where fear had ruled hours earlier. 1,000 women stood together, faces upturned, eyes bright with confusion, anger, and something new. Anticipation. Flyra stepped forward first. "You were told the surface was death," she said. "I walked it. I breathed it. I lived." Murmurs spread. Kellen followed, standing beside her. He did not shout. He did not posture. "My people call themselves human," he said. "We came from a single world once. We broke it. Then we learned. Slowly. Painfully. We failed, adapted, failed again." Images appeared behind him. Stars, ships, cities rebuilt from dust. "We survive not because we are perfect," he continued, "but because we refuse to stop asking how to do better." A woman near the front raised her hand, voice trembling. "Why were we hidden?" Kellen exhaled. "Because fear is easier to manage than hope. Because isolated worlds can't resist. Because someone decided your future was inconvenient." Silence. Then a voice from the crowd. Angry. Sharp. "So what? You bring war here." Kellen shook his head. "No. War already came. I'm offering preparation." Flyra added, "And choice." That word echoed. Choice. Magistra Sorrel stepped forward last. "I was wrong," she said, and the city stilled. "We were wrong. We hid to survive, but survival without truth is just another kind of death." Something broke open in the crowd, not panic, but release. The decision was made without ceremony. Veil would rise. The next days blurred into motion. Surface access tunnels were reopened and reinforced. Old emitters were repaired, redesigned with human logic layered over alien engineering. Kellen worked with teams who learned faster than anyone he had ever seen, women who had been denied knowledge and devoured it the moment it was offered. "Why didn't we think of this?" one engineer muttered as a system stabilized. "You were told not to," Kellen replied. "That wasn't your failure." Signals were sent, careful, encrypted, human-coded. Not a broadcast. A knock. And the galaxy answered. First with silence. Then with whispers. Then with ships. Not warships. Not conquerors. Observers. Traders. Humans and others who remembered what it meant to be hidden, and who refused to let it happen again. When the hostile faction returned, they did not find a buried city. They found a world awake. The sky burned orange as sleek black cruisers descended, weapons charged. And below them, Veil's surface shimmered, not as a shield, but as a statement. Energy arced. Fields bent. Space itself seemed to resist. Kellen stood beside Flyra on the surface platform, wind tugging at their clothes. "You're not scared?" she asked. He smiled, not wide, but real. "Terrified. That's how I know it matters." The first hostile volley never landed. It curved, redirected by systems built from shared knowledge, not domination. A human ship decloaked beside the planet. Then another. And another. A voice echoed across open channels, calm and unmistakably human. "This world is protected. Withdraw." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the black cruisers turned away. Cheers broke out across the surface and below. Flyra laughed, breathless. "We did it." Kellen watched the stars. "No," he said. "We started it." Veil was no longer a secret. It was a symbol. And symbols, Kellen knew, were dangerous to tyrants. Because once people learned they didn't have to stay buried, they never would again.